To understand unknown, Cave of Bones, one must first abandon the comfort of the sunlight. This Netflix documentary, released in 2023 as part of the Unknown series, is not merely a scientific report. It is a claustrophobic psychological thriller disguised as paleoanthropology. It asks us to squeeze our modern bodies through fissures barely wide enough for a human chest to confront a ghost that has been waiting in the dark for 250,000 years. The film centers on the Rising Star Cave system in South Africa, a geological throat that swallows light and, as we learn, perhaps the secrets of the dawn of human consciousness. At the helm of this expedition is Lee Berger, a paleoanthropologist who occupies a space somewhere between a rigorous academic and a theatrical showman, a man whose ambition is matched only by the controversial magnitude of his claims. The narrative arc of the film is constructed less like a lecture and more like a heist movie, where the prize is not gold, but a paradigm shift. The central subject is Homo naledi, a hominid species discovered by Berger's team roughly a decade prior. These creatures are a paradox stitched together by evolution, possessing feet almost indistinguishable from ours, ready to walk the African savanna, yet crowned with a skull that houses a brain the size of an orange. In the traditional dogma of human evolution, a brain that small is incapable of complex culture. It is a biological machine for survival, not a vessel for grief, art, or ritual. Cave of Bones exists to shatter that dogma with a sledgehammer. The film excels in translating the physical terror of the Rising Star Cave into a visceral viewing experience. We are introduced to the chute, a vertical fissure so narrow that it terrifies even the claustrophobia-immune viewer. Because Berger himself was too large to navigate these treacherous narrows during the initial excavations, the film highlights the underground astronauts, a team of small, agile, and incredibly brave female scientists who act as the hands and eyes of the operation. There is something profoundly poetic in this imagery: modern humans contorting themselves, scraping their skin against jagged limestone, risking their lives to reach out and touch the remains of a non-human cousin. It creates a tangible link across deep time, suggesting that the drive to explore is a trait we might share with the beings whose bones litter the cave floor. The primary tension of the documentary revolves around three explosive claims that Berger and his team attempt to substantiate during their 2022 expedition. The first, and perhaps most emotionally resonant, is the theory of burial. The camera lingers on depressions in the cave floor, specifically in the Naledi chamber, which the team identifies as deliberate graves. The narrative guides us through the excavation of a specific pit containing the skeletal remains of a Homo naledi child. The way the film frames this is deliberately provocative. We are told to look at the positioning of the bones, the way the body seems curled in a fetal position, suggesting not just the disposal of a corpse, but a ritualistic act of farewell. If true, this upends the timeline of emotional complexity. We have long hoarded the concept of burial as a uniquely human trait, or at least one reserved for big-brained Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. To suggest that a creature with a brain 1/3 the size of ours felt grief profound enough to navigate a terrifying cave system to bury its young is to suggest that the soul, or consciousness, is not a byproduct of brain volume, but something far more ancient. Connected to the theory of burial is the necessity of light. The film makes a compelling logical argument: the Naledi chamber is in absolute pitch darkness. It is impossible to navigate the chute, let alone carry a dead body through it, without illumination. Thus, the team hunts for evidence of fire. The documentary treats the discovery of soot on the cave ceilings and hearths on the floor as a smoking gun. The visual storytelling here is triumphantly cinematic. We see the team look up, their headlamps tracing the black stains of ancient smoke, and in that moment, the gap between us and them narrows. Fire is the technology of home, of cooking, and of storytelling. If Homo naledi mastered fire to navigate the underworld, they were not just animals fleeing predators, they were explorers conquering their environment. However, the film pushes even further, venturing into the realm of the abstract. In a sequence that feels almost religious in its presentation, the team discovers markings on the cave walls, hatch marks, cross-hatchings, and geometric shapes etched into the dolomite. These are presented as the world's oldest art. This is the moment where the documentary is most aggressive in its storytelling. Lee Berger stands before these markings, and the viewer can practically feel his desire for them to be meaningful. If Homo naledi was carving symbols into the rock near their dead, they possessed symbolic thought. They were marking a space as sacred. This suggestion is the final blow to human exceptionalism. It implies that art is not the result of a massive frontal cortex, but perhaps a fundamental need of sentient life to leave a mark, to say, "I was here." Critically, one must approach Unknown, Cave of Bones with an awareness of its own narrative bias. It is important to acknowledge that the film presents these findings, burial, fire, and art, with a certainty that has met with significant skepticism in the wider scientific community. The documentary format does not allow for the slow, grinding peer review process where other experts might argue that the graves are a result of water erosion or that the soot is natural staining. The film is undeniably Teen Berger. It sweeps the viewer up in the emotional conviction of the researchers. When Berger finally manages to enter the chamber himself, having lost weight specifically to fit through the chute, it is played as a spiritual homecoming. His tears are real, and his awe is infectious. The film prioritizes this emotional truth over cold objectivity, asking the viewer to feel the discovery rather than just analyze it. The aesthetic of the film reinforces its themes. The lighting is perpetually dramatic, alternating between the sterile harshness of underground leads and the warm, golden hues of dramatic reenactments. The sound design is equally immersive, utilizing the amplified sounds of scraping rock and labored breathing to keep the audience in a state of sympathetic breathlessness. It creates a sensory experience that mirrors the disorientation of the cave. We are meant to feel the oppressive weight of the rock, the silence of the tomb, and the sudden, jarring thrill of discovery. Ultimately, Unknown, Cave of Bones is a story about the definition of humanity. It challenges the arrogance of our species. We like to believe that we are special because we are smart, because we build cathedrals and write symphonies. But this film suggests that the things we value most, compassion for the dead, the courage to face the dark, and the impulse to create, might belong to a small-brained creature that vanished hundreds of thousands of years ago. It forces us to look into the hollow eyes of a Homo Naledi skull and see a reflection, not of an ape, but of a peer. The documentary ends not with a period, but with a question mark. While the scientific debates will rage on in academic journals about whether the rock scratchings are truly art or the burials are truly graves, the cultural impact of the film remains. It has successfully mythologized Homo Naledi. It has turned a pile of bones in a South African cave into characters in a tragedy about survival and extinction. Whether or not every claim holds up to the scrutiny of future science, the film succeeds as a piece of profound storytelling. It reminds us that we share this planet's history with other minds, other dreamers who perhaps looked into the same fire and wondered about the same shadows. It leaves the viewer with a lingering sense of humility, a realization that the history of consciousness is likely far older, deeper, and more complex than we ever dared to imagine.